actually one of the very first things that we are doing in Sri Lanka right now. So let us actually first, I will, then there are others also. I think Hitesh is here. Saminda, I don't know who, from where? Saminda?
Saminda also from our
from the
teams.
DOC?
Yes.
Okay, great. So your background actually in networking, or like what sort of backgrounds? Because I will do like a lot of now when we go into the next few weeks. So this will be a continuous webinar on. So let me have my video also, then I can start on that. So basically this webinar is going to be like a continuous one. We are going to have a so we are today only introduction, but there will be a lot of technical stuff that we'll be talking about, actually how to configure DNS servers in the for the IDNs, internationalized domain names, and also that with the examples you can actually popularize this, and by if you can tell the others also, because then we can have basically the idea is to have a more internationalized domain names in Sri Lanka. So we will actually talk to the ISPs, also internet service providers, and also that I will share some of the things that we are doing with the coding as well. Like we will touch upon the PHP, and we are thinking of actually also PHP and especially Python. Python has a lot of resources for the internationalized domain names. In fact, I'll be at the end, I will talk about some of the stuff that we'll be doing. Let me first share with you my PowerPoint slides, and let me see whether I can get it on. Yeah, hold on. Can you see my slides?
Yes, sir.
You can, right? Okay, good. So the first of all, so I'm talking today about the multilingual internet and the internationalized domain names and the universal acceptance. And I thought actually that I will not be able to cover the email address internationalization today, right? So we have few organizations actually coming on board with us. One is actually ICANN, Internet Corporation for Assigned Name and Numbers, and the LK Domain Registry, and the third one is Theekshana, which is the one which will be the executing the project. And we also have a local language technical help center. So any of these ones actually we can, so the next time when we talk, I think we will talk to a lot of IS, internet service providers as well. So this is the first webinar that after that Theekshana has been selected by the international ICANN to execute the universal acceptance in Sri Lanka. So we are yet to start our propaganda machinery. So the propaganda. So we'll have the press conference coming up in the first week. The second week of November. We have a workshop which we are actually will have several placements. I think there are about 40 places. For it, there will be a first workshop we will cover. I mean, we'll have for 40 seats, and so we'll be talking to most of the organizations, and I think we will be talking to Dialogue, SLT, even the public banks, and some organizations. So for this universal acceptance, right? This on the universal acceptance and the multilingual internet and IDNs. So the first thing I just want to talk about let me see. I have an issue with my slides. Right. Okay. Hold on. Right. So until recently. So that is about like 2000 by like the turn of the century. A lot of people, talk about internet, and the main language or the de facto lingua franca of the internet has been English and Latin script. So although that 2/3 of the world works using other languages and scripts other than English, but still it was the English and Latin script. They're basically French, Spanish, German, or Cyrillics actually also was there, but mainly it is English. So the text transmission on the internet is based upon the American Standard Code for Information Interchange, that is ASCII. So we all know that even in 1996, when the commercial internet came into existence, it was primarily that they were basically using English and ASCII. So its ASCII is a 127-bit code. So but other countries, of course, actually wanted to get, they want to also part of this internet. And after 1996 and 95, 96, Sri Lanka got into commercial internet somewhere in 1995, somewhere in May of 1995. Okay. By 1996, what I remember was internet was in a infant stage in Sri Lanka, especially the commercial internet. Prior to that, in 1980s, actually, Professor Indurua and Professor Gihan Dias, they have used TCP/IP for the net, the connecting networks, and so the LEARN was born somewhere in latter part of 1980s, 80s. Because of Professor Indurua's instigations, and he was the pioneer of actually the LEARN network, which is for the universities. Use a TCP/IP, and then subsequently Professor Gihan Dias, Professor Saman Naika, and several others worked basically tirelessly to get the network right now, the LEARN network, which universities are connected right now. And subsequently, the internet also came in, basically was connected through dial-ups those days. Later, when I joined ICT 1996, when I actually basically part of ICT, Institute of Computer Technology, in 1996. There was no internet. There was several dial-ups, but the reason behind that, the router was burnt due to a lightning strike. So we had to actually come up with, it was a kind of interesting things that we had to do. We had some router boxes programmed, and we converted in NT boxes, and we got internet to my lab, at least somewhere in 96, in the latter part of 96, so that we could use the internet to send email. Then so I will give you a little bit of statistics right now. So since then, there were so many things happened. That's a kind of history. You can go to LK domain registry, actually maintains history of ICT in Sri Lanka, and so you can search on the Google, and so several others are also being been interviewed, and that our stories are also on that particular site. My case, actually, subsequently I became part of I became part of the SynTech several committees, and with that, and actually I basically became they consider some of us as the pioneers of internet in Sri Lanka. So later I became the founding president of Internet Society, So Internet Society is actually the one that trained some of our internet pioneers in Sri Lanka, like Dr. Ruwan Veerasinghe, Dr. Nimal Ratnayaka from Peradeniya, and several others. So anyway, I also became one of the 7 founding members or founding fathers of Learn, because I was the last to be on that with the Dr. Ruwan and Dr. Nimal and Professor Gihan with them. So anyway, so let us look at multilingual internet. So up to now, so that it is actually like to 2000, it's basically English. But since then, there were several other things had happened. So one of the main part of that is the Chinese and the Indians, who had played a major role, and with them actually, of course, we also are in a way. So what has happened right now is English now has been basically still the de facto lingua franca, but there are lots of content is right now coming from other languages like Chinese, Japanese, the Korean, and like for instance, Indian is fairly big right now. So we can look at some of the numbers, what's happening right now. So we have about a 5.4 billion internet users worldwide today. In fact, about last year, it had been 4.9 billion users. And roughly that now, right now, the total population of the world is about 8 billion, somewhere very close to 8 billion. So we are almost like 75% right now. We are reaching about 70% user base of the world population is using internet in some way or the other. So let us look at what the languages, the worldwide languages, the world most popular writing script. So when you take the languages, for internet, it's very important the script what we write in. So so if you look at about roughly now about in millions, 4.9 billion people use Latin script, kind of a Latin alphabet. We call it alphabet, right? Then the next one is the Chinese, something about a 1.3 billion users. So there is Arabic, 660. By the way, Arabic is very interesting because it's a kind of like you write from right to left. It's not kind of, it's you write from right to left. And so our script is left to right. The Latin script is left to right. So some of the Indo-European the scripts, Indo-European languages actually, then mostly use Latin script. And some, the Indian, Indo-European, some of the Indian European and the Dravidian, they're all left to right, right? So you have a right to left scripts also, like the Arabic is one of them. Hebrew, there are several other in the Middle East, you write from right to left. Then another next biggest, the script that is Devanagari, we call this Abhiguda. That is a syllabary kind of, we call it a Abhiguda type, which is actually with a consonant vowel based script. So it's a 608 million. Then the Bengali Assamese is about 300 million. Cyrillic is the Russian, it's an alphabet, 250. This is a Kannada, I think, which is the Japanese, which is 120 million. Javanese is another very beautiful script, which almost like right in Indonesia, it's about 80 million. So you have the others. I just want to actually, there is a Telugu, which is Indian, Tamil 70, Gujarati 48, Kannada 45. So that's come from India. Then there is a Burmese, which is looks sometimes some the circular script, the glyphs, which is fairly looks like, if you look at from far away, if it it's very looks similar to Sinhala. Malayalam is about the 38 million. Then you have Thai 38, Sudanese about 38, Gurmukhi again India 22, Lao 22. So we are not that bad. We are about 14.4 million. We are like the 22nd largest script that is used worldwide scripts. We are in the 22nd. So we are not a very small, although a small country, but the script fairly high up there. It's about 22 million. So there is a Georgian somewhere is about that's again an alphabet 4.5. So there are other ones are actually very fairly sort of small numbers. So how does the internet now fares right now? We have a total. We have Asia has the largest percentage, though that the de facto language is English. Right now, 20% is Latin script, which I have not given here. That is 20% is actually in like a Chinese, the Chinese and those Korean that's called, we call it a Korean, Japanese, CJK, we call it Chinese. Now they're coming up very fast. So the challenge in the Latin script right now. So if you look at it, 3.9%, which is a very hard language for computerization, is the bidirectional language. So the Oceania and the Australia is about 0.6, right? So then if you look at the internet use in the prevalent part of the many people's lives across the globe, you can see the US is 90% right now. And of course, the Sri Lanka, right now, some of the statistics have a kind of a, I think basically we are not very sure. Right now, the numbers that we have got, I think it's about, last year it's about 35% before during the COVID. Now it is almost 40% to 50% actually people in Sri Lanka using internet. So this is what the numbers are right now. The worldwide, I got it for 2020. Yeah. So this is what is happening right now. In fact, this one had not given any sort of you can see we had at the same time the population has also grown. Now it's almost 8 billion. So you can see that there is about 2.9 billion people are still offline, but the point is it's going up. In fact, what I now got the numbers right now, it's about 5.4 billion. So which is not, you can't see here, but so it's almost still, we have about 2.7 to 2.9 billion people are not still being offline. Now, the idea is, so the ICANN also is thinking, so let me tell you a little bit about ICANN because it's very important. So the ICANN is actually it's being contracted by basically what has happened was that, the internet was born in US, and later on it was used for primary purpose of internet was actually it was on a Department of Defense to keep to connect the computers together, so to a network of computers. So so that started in 1969. Since then, 1974 was another demarcation point. Windsurf and Khan, they came up with the protocol, transmission control protocol and internet protocol. So these two protocols made the internet plausible, what we know of today. So then subsequently in 1996, the American government decided to make it for commercial. Earlier, it was basically it really was actually for then it became academic. Like when I entered the university in the US, it was quite academic, the internet. So we used the email. At that time, we didn't have basically what we call the web, World Wide Web today. Then it happened in World Wide Web somewhere in 90s. And then 96, it actually became commercialized, and internet actually was given to the rest of the world through the Department of Commerce of the US, and ICANN was basically contracted to, because earlier that there what we call internet is not plausible without a DNS servers, domain name servers, and those servers actually translate any domain name, like something like google.com, because the computers think in numbers. It has to translate that google.com to a number. So there is a what you call an IP address. These IP addresses are unique. So we at present, currently, most people use IP version 4. Right now, we are running out of IP version 4. Because of that, we are now moving into IPv6. So still that we are still using, commonly that we use actually is IP version 4. So IP version 4, these IP addresses and the domain names are actually owned by, because it's been contracted to it is actually owned by in the sense that means the delegation is actually done by Internet Corporation for assigned names and numbers. So they are the ones actually who are right now who own the 13 root servers, and without the root DNS servers, without those, internet is not plausible. So that's the idea, right? So the next one is, so before we go into this, so people had realized now how to actually do this. So there is also some other technical part was actually happening, and that same way that we have started in Sri Lanka too. So like ASCII, a lot of countries, of course, they started actually because they needed that to computerize their languages. Like the Indians actually wanted it so badly, so did the Sri Lankans. So they actually also came up with the same level, the same kind of model. But the ASCII is, they came up with Indian script code for information interchange. It's a coding scheme for representing various writing systems. There are about 22. Initially it encoded the main Indic scripts and the Roman transliteration. The supported scripts were Bengali, Assamese, Devanagari, Gujarati, Gurmukhi. So those are all northern Indian languages. Then Kannada, Malayalam, Oriya, Tamil, and Telugu. These are like Dravidian languages. So the Sri Lankans too came up with its own character code by the beginning of 90s called Sri Lanka Standard Sinhala Character Code for Information Interchange. This is later known as a SLS 1134 version 1. So that is the version. We actually changed it to version 2 later on, Unicode, and I was part of that. I was a member of that committee that actually we did, which actually came up with this, because there was an internet committee. There was an internet committee there is a committee in Syntech. I became a member because of the fact that I was the first web administrator of, I was the first and the last actually. There was no one else since then for www.lk, which is the country portal. So then we basically in some way in 91 actually, everybody, there was a huge this thing to get all these scripts together, so to somehow support these scripts. So what happened was, there were actually there is a there were several people like King Visala, and there were several others. So I will give you the names, and they got together. There were few people, and so they decided to come up with Microsoft, Google, and some of the big companies at that time they represented. So they came up with the idea of actually doing this universal character set. So this is what we call Unicode at the end. So that the Unicode Consortium, they came to know worldwide as Unicode or Unicode Consortium. The current version, which is a 15, in fact, version 14 came a little bit later. Basically what happened was that they scheduled it to be somewhere in 2020, and I think because of COVID it got late. Now recent in 2022, we have the version 15 of Unicode code, contains about 149,186 characters and covering about 161 modern and historic scripts, and has symbols like emojis and colors formatting codes as well. So our Sinhala journey in Unicode began somewhere encoded in Unicode version 3 in 1998. So the first version actually of the Unicode came in 1991. And then we of course heard, and then we also actually moved into Unicode. So our script was also encoded. Then I had the opportunity, and through ICTA. Now this happened. This 1998 initiative were done by the Syntech. So the later we have uh, uh, there is a there is this Sinhala numerals were added as early as 2010, and the Lit Ilakkam into basic multilingual plane and Sinhala Ilakkam into SMP. So these two actually we got it, and because I was part of that team that which actually, in fact, I spearheaded the team for Sinhala numerals in 2010. Then hold on. Then the success, actually at that time there were a lot of, I mean, if you knew about those days, a lot of people didn't think that the internet would Unicode would succeed, but it did. So then all the operating systems in the world moved to Unicode. Unicode now used for internet. So the Unicode has been used for internationalization and localization since then. So then what happened with actually the now ASCII also moved in. So to this, and I got really it became a subset of Unicode right now. So the Unicode stand is implementing recent technologies, modern software operating XML, etc. So today the Unicode is universal. There is nothing, everything is now has moved into Unicode. The basic Unicode is being adopted by almost all the devices, worldwide devices. So the Unicode character repertoire is synchronized with the ISO IEC 10646. That is a ISO standard, it's being code for code identical with other. So I have been a member of ISO working group 2, 10646 for the last, I think, almost 20 years right now. So Unicode Consortium website covers not only character sets, but other detailed areas such as normalization of characters, collation, and bidirectional text as well. So it's a bidirection is for the Arabic. So the Unicode standard defines three and several other encoding, all practicable variable with encoding. The most encodings are the ASCII compatible UTF-8, the ASCII incompatible UTF-16, compared with the obsolete UCS2, and the Chinese encode, which is not a standard, official standard, but is used widely in China and implements Unicode fully right now. So 18030, which is GB, right? At present, ICANN has launched IDN program delegation generic top level domain. Right, now let me a little bit tell you about this also. This is a very interesting thing about the international domain name. So somewhere in 2000, somewhere around 1998, people started thinking about, I think if you remember, we had only like mostly three letter ones, right? .coms, .rg. These are called generic top level domains, right? So we had .org, .coms. Likewise, there are several of those. Those are three-letter ones primarily. Later on, in somewhere in 2000, what happened was we had what you call a five of, if I remember five, I think, .coop. So these are little longer. Museums, 5, .museum. Likewise, we had several of those new ones came in. So that is somewhere in 2000. So these are all called generic top level domains. But at the same time that you had what we call country code top level domains, like for instance, .lk had been .lk.jp, .us, .uk. Likewise, you had several two-letter, the ISO country code. Basically there is a two-letter label for a country. So they use those ones to basically to have a ISO basically name, two-letter identification for countries. That's called country code top level domain. So our one of the .lk is one of the earliest delegated delegations done by Postal himself, who is the SAF, we call it SAF ICANN. I'm sorry, Internet. ICANN will continue with generation. So then later on, so there was a very good idea of, so they want to do something like, so there was a somewhere in 2000, somewhere mid 2000, there were they auction some of the top level domains, generic top level, like .asia, for instance. So .asia was one of them. And so all this actually still a Latin script. But there was a movement started in the, especially in East Asian countries like Japanese, the Koreans. They want the internationalized domain names. So they began an international domain name with a different their scripts, like especially for these Japanese, especially the Chinese, the kanji, and they have two other ones, the Japanese and the Korean, and also the Japanese, Korean, and Chinese. So they wanted their own. Basically what we are talking about is a top level domains. So generic top level domains in their own scripts. So which later on I can also join, and so they came up with some other technology that is required for them to actually have a script. That means a different with these scripts. So which later on in a particular auctions, actually subsequently we had the .bharat from India. So the several different scripts that actually different ones came in, and Sinhala CCTLD, we were basically were delegated somewhere in 2009. Actually, one of the very first non-Latin scripts, even before India, the .lk and .ilange came into existence. So that is one of the great, when you look at the history, so the LK domain registry was part of the very first IDNs. Then the Indians came with the 22 IDNs, then the Singapore, and later on several other countries. But anyway, so we were the first to do so. In fact, they didn't have I remember when windsurf was actually the unveiling of the two domain names. There was some issue with the font as well. The squares came in. I remember now. I remember very vividly of that during that period. So let us talk about the international domain names. So an international domain name is an internet label which contains at least one label displayed in a software application in a whole or part in non-Latin script or alphabetic such as Arabic, Hebrew, Sinhala, Tamil, etc. The Hebrew is from Israel, and these non-Latin scripts are encoded in computer system devices using multi-byte Unicode. However, international domain names are stored in domain systems using a special ASCII string, which is known as a Unicode. So I just want to show you something. A few days back, and I configured our DNS server. So this is called for the universal acceptance, the Sinhala word for that, what we got, it was vishasammati.lanka. So equivalent Unicode is, so you can see, if you want to see whether it's a Unicode, you will see that XN, then you have a hyphenated hyphen. So when you say XN, that means it is a Unicode. Then you goes in again, for that is vishasammati. Then again a dot, XN for .lanka, FZZ 2Z9E 2C, which is actually Lanka. So these are so before that happened, there was this whole concept of variance came into existence. So there is the same script, they look similar, the Sinhala has a very similar, visually very similar, J and Ch, like something, and so there's and the one, and even if you look at Mayana will sometimes get confused with another character. So this variant concept came. So the whole idea is there can be a phishing attack. So the phishing attack, so this variant concept. So therefore, what we because I was actually part of that the 2013 ICANN. We had the ICANN meeting in Beijing in somewhere in April. So I was supposed to also give a basically I was invited to give a lecture on the variance in the internationalized domain name. So especially in Sinhala. So how would we handle this? So by that time, we have also worked out how to handle the LK domain registry. So even if you look at now, let me go back again. Now, if you look at the now I'll see that you can see my cursor. So this is the first level. You can see the first level .lanka. Then this is second level, and you can have a third level also. So all these actually, so the .lanka can be, let's say .lk, something in Latin script. But then the second one can be in Sinhala, and the third one also can be Sinhala. So we had to come up with certain rules. So the registry actually came up with it. So when we did the .lanka, or .ilange, we came up with the whole concept of how would we handle the second level? How can we handle the third level? So the second level you can have, like for instance, there was this originally, there was this whole idea of, that Rakara and Yansa forms are handled with zero with joiner. That's a silent, there is a, I'm sorry, it's a visually not, you don't see that. It's not visually seen. So it's a hidden character. So it is a, so what we did was, for like when you want to sort of render the Halkirima Ran, right? So Halkirima zero with joiner, right? So that is the way that actually it renders by the rendering engine of the Windows. So that so basically that's how it renders. So because of zero with joiner, a lot of these applications, they were really worried there would be a phishing attack. So originally the Rakar and Yansa forms used to break. So you can see now whenever you have a Rakar form, you can see Halkirim Rayana. So it won't see the Rakar answer. It won't see the answer. Still the Windows, I mean, basic desktop version of Facebook has the same problem, but when it comes to Google and rest of the others, they have fixed it right now. So original, the international domain names that they actually said, anyway, now even we can't have a Rakan. That's why you can't have a Sri Lanka in top level domain. You can't have Sri Lanka here. So the top level domain. So in order to prevent, so the basically, so in the domain registry of LK domain registry, we decided not to have this Rakar and Yansa form in the top level domain. But the second level also did not at that time allow that. So I'll come back to that when we talk about this. And the third level, of course, it was allowed at that time, I remember, as I recall. So anyway, but those were the top level domains. You can't have a Rakar answer. So you will never be able to have a Sri at the moment. You will never be able to have a .satya, for instance, as a top level domain. So because the ICANN decided to auction these top level domains, the first round, they didn't worry about variance, but they went ahead and gave like .bharat and all of that. So the first ones to like .lanka, there was, so we actually formulated the rules. But later on, they also realized, therefore they ICANN formed committees. I'll talk about that later. They're called generation panel, the generation panels. So the single generation panels, Dr. Ruan and I co-chaired it. So we actually came up with the rules by 2020. We handed out, we submitted that to ICANN. Now today those have become rules, and we recently celebrated the formulation of 16 scripts. So I'll talk about that later. So this is if you look at worldwide, so on the right hand side, what we are talking about is these root zone LGR, right? That is the one which we actually came up with the rules, right? So these are, so we look at it and see it's when before we actually issue that, we'll check whether it's a valid label according to our rules. So the TLD, top level domain. So somebody were to ask for a Dhamma, for instance. So we'll check it and see .Dhamma. We check it and see whether they actually can apply these rules. So if these are applied, that means you don't have a Rakarans, you don't have a sort of like, so the Bandiakuru can't be there because there's zero with joiner. Rete can't be there. So those ones will not be there. So we have actually removed those from the root zone. So in the even the variance, we look at some of the internally been if you take a script and see whether there is a variance in the within the script, those also have been removed right now. So this is what the valid TLD label, all variants. And so these rules are actually there. So that is a Thai, Arabic, like there are about 28 scripts. That's what they're saying. But what I understand is about 16 scripts right now we have finished. So if you look at the next one, what you are saying is you can see .Ilanga and .Lanka, then .Bharat is on there. Then you have the Arabic scripts, and from there, this side, when we are moving into this side, you will see the Chinese and the Japanese. So right now, next one. So these are the other than those earlier ones. So you can see .city had come, .legal had come, .asia. So which is somewhere in 2008. I remember that .asia, they were trying to sort of somewhere in early 2000. So they were really asking for .asia to represent Sri Lanka. So this is the .asia web address and email now. Hurry before it is gone. .asia. So that's their way of actually. So it's a primarily actually it's actually run from Singapore, Affilias. So that's from that side of the world. So the Asian countries are the ones very keen on this particular top level domains. Right. I will just go through the IDNs because. So this IDNs originally proposed by Martin Dues, it's a German, and implemented in 1990 by Juan Jue Kwong and Leong Kong Yong under the guidance of Tin Tin B. So although this is in Singapore, all the domain name systems support non-ASCII characters, applications such as email and web browser restrict the characters which can be used as domain names. So that means a Unicode for purposes such as a host name. So actually that I can show you, I mean, next time I will show you how to actually even configure these ones. So I use up Unicode to do that. Strictly speaking, it is a network protocols these applications use that have restrictions on the characters which can be used in domain names, not the applications that have these implementations on the DNS itself. To retain backward compatibility with the install base, the IETF IDNA working group decided that internationalized domain names should be converted into a suitable ASCII-based form. So that's a string that could be handled by web browsers and other user applications. IDNA specifies how this conversion between names written in a non-ASCII characters and their ASCII-based representation is performed. So I can issue the guideline for the use of IDNA in 2003. So this is called IDNA 2003. So this is where the problem came. So we started making a massive complaints to the ICANN by saying we have a huge problem with the RAFE form and the YANS and RACAR form. We didn't want to use it in a GTLD, that is the top level domains, but we wanted the second level or the third level. So that was given later with a umlaut and several other changes in the 2008. So IDNA 2008 actually relaxed some of those very strict rules that were found in the IDNA in 2003. The conversion between ASCII and non-ASCII forms of a domain name accomplished by the pair of algorithms called to ASCII and to Unicode. So if you look at the Punicode, so that's called a Punicode actually. So the IDNA 2003 basically define how to do this in a ASCII to convert all of those whatever in these scripts in the even now we are using UTF-8 the same way, UTF-8 or the Unicode. So actually it's in the Punicode as well. So it's a representation of Unicode with the limited ASCII character subset used for internet host names. Using Punicode, host names containing Unicode characters are transcoded to a subset of ASCII consisting of letters, digits, and hyphens, which is called the letter digit hyphen LDH subset. This is originally specified in IETF R request for comments 3492. So the 3492 is replaced later on in the 2008. I will just go through that also. As stated in RFC 3492, Punicode is an instance of a more general algorithm called bootstring, which allows string composed from a small set of basic code points uniquely represent any string of code points drawn from the large set. Unicode defines parameters for the general boot string algorithms to match the characteristic of Unicode text. RFC 5892. This is after replace the earlier version of ID in 2003. Remember there are some of the triggering point for this replacement was actually we had issues with like some of our even the complex scripts like Sinhala where we use a zero with joiner, and there are several others like the German had a problem with their umlaut. They had several other problems like several scripts. So because of that reason, where zero with joiner and zero with non-joiner were used, they had some issues in the IDNA 2003. So they clamored for the changes. So these clamoring resulted in having the RFC 5890 replace the earlier version. A string is IDNA valid if it meets all the requirements of these specifications for IDNA label. IDNA valid strings may appear in either of the two forms, defined immediately below, or may be drawn from the NRLG label subset. IDNA valid string must also conform to all basic DNS requirements for label. These documents make specific reference to the form appropriate. So this I'm taken from the 5890, yeah, to any context in which the distinction is important. So what is an A label? Now, this is a very interesting. A label is that's, remember that I can go back here. Now I can show you what is the A label. So this is, now I have my cursor. So this is an this is an A label where it is in Unicode. So what I'm showing is right now, right? So that's an A label. So let us go back to the A label. So it's an ASCII form that you have, right? An A label. So anybody tells you what an A label is, that is the ASCII compatible encoding. That forms an IDNA value string. It must be a complete label. IDN defines for labels, not for parts of them, not for complete domain. This means by definition that every A label will begin with the IDNA ACE prefix XN followed by a string that is valid output of the Unicode algorithm RFC 3492, and hence a maximum of 59 ASCII characters in length. The prefix and string together must conform to all requirements for a label. Basically, I have there several other definitions, but this is the most important definition. Then the U label. Now, right now, let me go back and show you what a U label is. Okay, sorry. Let me show you the U label. So this is a U label. So Vishwasammuti.Lanka. So this is the equivalent of Vishwasammuti in Unicode. So the U label is this. So that is in Unicode, right? So that's in Unicode. So the U label is a IDNA valid string of Unicode characters in normalization form. It's called a form C, NFC, and include at least one non-ASCII character expressed in a Unicode standard encoding form, such as UTF-8. It is also subject to the constraints about permitted characters that are specified in section 4.2 of the protocol document and rules in the section 2 and 3 of the tables document, the BD constraints. I can go back. I will actually start talking about all of these bidirectional and all these in the next webinars. So let me summarize all of this. Let me before I go into the universal acceptance. But the point that here I want to tell you is, now there are primarily when we now I know that the Gen Z's actually, I don't think there'll be any issue with this, because like people like older people, for them the internet, when they talk about the GTLDs, primarily they talked about three letter GTLDs, right? So I will define, or I will give you the list for historical purposes the next time, that what are the original the GTLDs are, like .coms, .orgs, and there are a few others that which are I think you need to know, right? So that's not because then you will get into this. Then in 2000 there were 5 of those, which is .coop, .museum, likewise. So I'll give you all the list for you to today a lot of people are using .coms, and there was a .com bubble somewhere in early 2000, right? Since then, so we have gone into other the longer domain names like .ct, .legal, .asia. Right now, it is plausible. So the people have been there. Then there was around the IDNs have come into play. So the first IDNs actually came about, I think, somewhere in 2009, 2010. But prior to that, the Japanese and the Chinese had it. Japanese actually .jp was there since 2003 actually. So so then since then we had so many long multi-byte the top level domains, especially in China and Thailand. So there people are using that. And India also actually joined the bandwagon. So we have a .bharat and so many others right now coming in. Sri Lanka also one of the very few countries which actually had their own had their own basically the top level domains. So the country code top level domains. So that's what I just want to tell you in a summary. I want to summarize this thing. So I think that this generation, the generation I think after the 2000 generation, who were born after that. So now they are in 20s. So for them, I think it's not a major issue because by that time they would have never seen like .coms are now anyway. They are still. But for them, having .asia is not a big deal because they have lived through this. So in the future, GTLDs are so common. So so people can actually buy GTLDs. Like somebody can come now, the .ibm is there, or major companies may be purchasing their own ones. So people are not going to really worry about, you're not restricted to use these three-letter ones or five-letter ones or anybody you have can have, when there is an option that you can actually propose and you can even buy those ones. So that's the idea. So we have now come up with rules also for the internationalized domain name. So I can expect the next 2 billion users to come on board because of these changes, what's happening right now. So the next big thing is going to happen is, that we have come up to about 72%, so 75%, between 70 now we are in somewhere in 75%. So it will be almost 90% will join because of these, we are lifting some of these restrictions that we have today. And another interesting part is because of this, because of the some of the Unicode, now some of the things that we have done with the Unicode, right? Some of the applications that have come to support. Now, even if you look at Facebook today in Sri Lanka, I mean, what you're seeing is even with these problems with the Rakar and Yansa form, of course, that you don't see it in your mobile devices, but you see that in desktop, a lot of people are using mobile. So therefore, they won't see that Rakar answer breaks or the answer breaks. But I think people are now used to typing in Sinhala. So what's happening right now is, so you have seen what sort of explosion what had happened on the internet. So the same thing had happened in China. So the 20% of right now, something about 19% of the content right now is in Chinese, for instance. So that's like challenging the Latin script. So I think they are like equivalent. 20% is right now Latin script, that 19% is there. So very soon, earlier it was about 70-80% was in the Latin. Now it's going down, and there is a content is coming up very fast in other scripts, like for instance, Indic scripts like Devanagari or Bengali or like and Tamil, or so the more than Tamil, I think there is the Gujarati or something like that. So all these languages are coming. So the content is also going up. So the next one is what we call the universal acceptance with all that. So what is universal acceptance? Universal acceptance is coined by Ram Mohan of Affilias. Affilias is actually based in Singapore. They are the ones who are running the .asia. They are running a lot of these Indic I'm sorry, international domain names, so they are looking at so it's a company, Affiliates is a company in Singapore, and it's actually the main person, Ram Mohan is the person. And the funny one is in 2013, so I remember Ram Mohan was being there with actually Dr. Salmat, who is right now the IDN director and the generation panel and the this universal acceptance director of ICANN. I also was one of the presenters, the same ICANN meeting in Beijing in 2013. He put forward, he put forward as a universal acceptance to represent every top level domain, regardless. So what the idea is, he put this concept. So it's actually regardless of script. So the idea what is going to happen with universal acceptance is, so I'll take that into the next one. I'll just next slide. The idea is that you can have email addresses in Sinhala. So the email addresses in terms of the labels in Sinhala. So that's the concept of this universal acceptance is, right? So so email address is, I'm sorry, the acceptance is actually to all of this email, not only email addresses but everything. So the every top, so the universal acceptance to represent every top level domain. So that means .com to .asia, when you send an email, it should reach the destination, right? It should process. It should go through all the steps. There are 5 steps I'll talk about later. And those 5 steps, and you can basically go through it, and you can even return a mail back to .com. So there is a somebody at something.com, like let's say google.com or gmail.com. Then you send an email to somebody at, let's say, let's first start with somebody x.asia, somebody at x.asia. So you send an email, then you basically, you go through, despite, I mean, in spite of they have different, these are the earlier domains, earlier top level domains, and here is the new ones, but they should not have any distinction between the two. And the other thing is, then there comes the regardless of the script. Like for instance, somebody at vishwasammati.lanka. So let's say Harsha at vishwasammati in Sinhala.lanka sends an email to vijayavardhana at gmail.com in Latin script. So it's it should not make any distinction. So it should actually reach there and reverse also. So for the principle of universal acceptance to be realized, all valid domain names and email address must be accepted, validated, stored, processed, and displayed. So that's the 5 things, right? So it has to be a valid domain name. It has to be valid in email addresses. It has to be accepted, validated, stored, processed. All of this should be done by the system application. This, whether they can actually the top level, new or older top level domains, or any script, or the number of characters, how new it is also, that doesn't mean anything at all. So that is the idea of universal acceptance, what we are talking about. So it's a very difficult thing. When I go through the email address internationalization, you will realize some of the servers don't even support. I will show you some of the applications. When I put in vishwasammati.lanka, it can't even figure it out. It is actually a IDN, right? So some of the places actually that was some of the scripts are not accepted. Even if you have XML, there are some issues. So now some of the languages like the Python, for instance, they're very interesting. Python actually, now I will show you later on the next webinar or something. I will show you, because we are going to have a basically a universal acceptance project right now. We are kicking off in Sri Lanka. So with that, actually, we have a website right now. It's a universalacceptance.lk. And there we are going to have all the resources that are required, which are required for you to start your own IDN, which are own email servers. So there are some email servers do not, right now, the email servers have I will talk about the different components of an email when you send it. So what is an MTA? What actually happens when you send from a application where the email app, basically software application, how does it work, different components of that. So I will talk about those on the next webinar, but actually there is now a project for Sri Lanka. So we are starting on that. And when we do that, we need to actually, we are now configuring the email servers. We are configuring right now the these components of these email servers, and some of them practically there are practical issues. So we are trying to understand these practical issues right now. So we are in the process of this, and so very soon we will have these email IDs in Sinhala and Tamil in so the .lanka and .ilange, for instance. And then the future, we can have our own top-level domains, like something like .dhamma or .colombo or something in Sinhala, and something in Tamil, for instance, so that we can maintain a top-level domains in our own scripts. So the rules are right now ready, and we are also looking at the technology, the protocols, and all these actually whether they are ready right now. So so that's the idea. So the next one, I think the 5 things that we are talking about. So the Sri Lankan right now, if you go to right now universalacceptance.lk, the whole project plan is there. We have not given you the dates. So so you can actually, we can talk about it in the next webinar. In fact, we think to give a little more publicity on this. Since that this is the first kickoff webinar, right now we are starting on this. I want to actually to take you through what I'm going through right now. Is having a lot of fun right now configuring these servers. And so I want to bring lots of other internet service providers, a lot of these IT technologists, and some of the people from the IT service in Sri Lanka, so that who will actually doing this. So I think the IDNs must be popularized in Sri Lanka. So we have these 2 IDNs, so we need to popularize right now. So these are the 5 things that we do: the universal acceptance, accept, validate, store and process, and display. So these 5 things actually must happen for the universal acceptance. And but actually it's not that easy. When next time I will tell you about each and every application, status of each application. Now what we are looking at right now, even if you take for instance different database management systems, MTAs like Exim and like a different these ones actually PostScript. So I'm sorry, the Exim kind of like servers, like, or the a lot of these servers, SMTP servers. So what we have actually looking at right now. So those ones, how they fare, I'll give you the list of these things. And so we can actually look at it and see what are the best ones. So we can select that. So the SMTP also, simple transfer protocol, that you have a UTF-8. You need to enable that. So in all the servers to do this, basically to send email back. And so we are doing it this week. So we'll come up this, and so we'll talk about universal acceptance more. And the next webinar that we are talking about actually is about the EAI, which is an email address internationalization. I will touch upon again these ones. I think these are because today's the first day that we are doing it. I'll go back again, touch upon these again, and then I will actually talk about how we are going to do this. So any questions that you have, so that I can now take up the questions. Is there any questions, so that we can talk about it? So I would like to have some people, if you can talk about this to others also, so we can have the next webinar. We can, I will touch upon like the Python, PHP, and even the Unicode, how to use this, and EI, the internationalization. Any questions that you have? I don't know whether it is today that I did a lot faster, and I think a lot of content. Any questions that you have, then I can answer. Anything? It's too, I think, early for us to actually talk about. Right now, since that you have BOCs here, Gihan BOC, I think I see another person here. Can you hear me, Gihan? Hello?
So we are all joined to the meeting at the same location.
Yeah. You are also there. So
Yes, yes.
now, are there any networking guys there?
Not here, sir.
So anyway, next time, can you also talk to them? So we have every other week, we will have this, right? So
Sure.
we'll talk to People's Bank also, because I think you guys are going to be one of the first to actually. So I told your AGMs to actually go on and do the configuration for the banker Ceylon, the IDNs, right? I will talk to Lake House tomorrow, and so I'll try to bring some people also on board. And so we can actually work together. And ISPs, I will talk to them also, because when we configure the email servers, so I will ask the Lankacom and the Dialog and SLT to be there. So it can be several others will come on board, I think. So the next week or I think we are going to do it week after. Is that right, Vaijayanti? When will be the next one? Hello? Lakisha, yeah?
Yes, sir.
When will be the next webinar, so that we can ask a few others to join right now, because we need a technical failure. The program is also that I think like Chamara, I think you do a lot of programming. I'm going to introduce you the guys to the I'm trying to introduce especially the what you can do is, like, for instance, now a lot of people even have not thought about this. The Unicode, you can basically generate the Unicode directly from, you don't it is actually integrated into the Python right now. You don't need to even external libraries. So once you do that, you can actually bring the Unicode. So it's a very simple operation, right? So so at the moment, what has happened right now, I was trying to do, like, I want to do a net, let's say, I don't know, that when you want to find out whether your domain is properly configured, there are two ways you can find out. One is NS lookup. The other one is the command that you need to find out is the digging. So if you have a Linux server, you can dig and find out a domain name. So I'll show you how to do all of that, next time. And technically, I'll just go there and I'll do it. The funniest one is now a lot of these right now there are online, like into DNS. Into DNS is something like how the DNS server is configured. Now let's say Vishwa Sammuti, or if you have a google.com or something, basically if you want to find out how that you have configured, there are tools like let me I'll show you. I think I'll try to show it to you. So now, like, for instance, now let me see whether I can get the internet here. Right. I'll try to load and I'll share with you. So this is another way into dns.com, right? So now I'll show you the can you now I will now I'll share it. So this is into DNS, right? Can you see it? Are you seeing it, or?
Yes, sir. We can.
You are seeing it, no?
Yes.
Right. So you are seeing. So now let me type this. So I will do a universal acceptance and I'll get a report, right? Now I'm getting a report now. So this is it will tell you. Hold on. There's some problem. Let's say, that means, let me see whether I can, there's some problem with the servers. I can't get name servers at present server. I only check domains, not subdomains. Oh, that's funny, no? Let's say google.com. Yeah, you can see that it tells you. That's funny that that's not showing that one. So here is your all the description about this thing, right? So there are some, it tells you about how the, so there are a couple of things. You have SOA, the refreshing. So I will talk about these things. So there is MX record, that's for the mail service. So the name service, so how does it work? I mean, basically these are the reverse. So all that is there. But if you do this, now let me do this. Let me see. So this is a universal acceptance, which I recently configured, right? So actually there are a couple of problems here. So they're saying it's recursive queries I have turned on, which I need to, then the multiple, because there should be always, there are 3 name servers. So at the moment I have configured only 2. So the one coming from the .lk delegation, and there are several things like here there's a single point because there's only one name server. Then not all your name servers are in different subnet because these are in the same. And then it tells you that there is like MX records are not there. So right. But now if I want to find out, let's do this. Now I have done the same thing for, let me do this for you to see. I will have now configured the vishwasammati.lanka also, right? Now, so I basically, let me go back. Now I'll take this one, vishwasammati.lanka, right? Now, if I go here and I will say that I will tell him to look for vishwasammati.lanka, right? So that now he will say that invalid request. He doesn't understand because of the way that it has been written. It doesn't actually not doing these things. But if I give the, definitely if I give the, let's do this, I'll go and do the A label, right? Now let us my, can you see me? I think you can't see, right? Hello?
Yes, we can see, sir.
You still can see it. I'm
Yes.
copying the, oh really?
Yeah, we can see that Vishwasammati Lanka.
All right, you didn't see, all right, now it says your screen sharing is post. Let me do the stop sharing and then I redo the sharing. All right, now let me do this one with the Unicode. Huh? So this is the Unicode. Now let me ask him now. Even that, I think it says an invalid request. Unicode also it doesn't understand. So now, so because of that, now what has happened is now I have to do some tools. I mean, obviously, Unicode has to. We need to find out a way. Now, let me do this. Let me share that again. Stop the. Now, stop this again. I'll share again. Let me do this. Now I'm doing the universal acceptance, but we have configured. Huh? So now I will put Unicode here. Still, we have to do this kind of stuff. You can see that it's coming. Vishwasammati Lanka, right? Did you see that? Can you see that? Did you see it?
Yes, sir.
Now I'll show you the rest. So we have configured same server, but what I'm going to do is now I can do the other way also. I'll show you. Now you see that I'll take the Vishwasammati here. Now what we are going to do is actually we will have a 2 web, basically 3 websites. One is in Sinhala. Now this I'll put it in. Can you see now I'm putting Sinhala vishwasammati.lanka. It actually goes to the same site. That's why it comes universal acceptance, right? Because I have configured. Now we had to do the virtual hosting so that you can have several different languages to support, like scripts, I mean. Universal access Vishwasammati and then the Ilangai. So there are 3, I think there are 3 sites that we are going to have. So the idea that here is, I just want to show you is that they work as normal as anything else, but I'll show you the how. Let me see whether I can do a NS lookup here. Let me do this NS lookup. I will dig it next time. I'll do the digging also. Let's look up. So I can't do Sinhala here. I can't. Can you see me? Can you see my NS lookup? Or you didn't? You don't see it, I think. Let me do the NS lookup now. So let me show you from the Windows. So this is a NS lookup. Can you see it? Hello.
Yes, sir.
All right. So the NS lookup now is doing that. So unfortunately, I can't do Vishwa Sammuti here because you will get squares, branch of squares in the command, which I try to actually configure it in. There is a way of doing it, but it doesn't support the Sinhala in there. It's a very funny this. So I'm not going to do that, but I can do this. I can show you. Let me take the Unicode. Let me copy it because you're not going to. I actually, when I was configuring this, I basically typed each one of them, right? So, but I'm not going to do this. So you can see that now there is a Unicode here. So Unicode is actually showing all that's the IP address, right? So this was vishwasammuti.lanka. Now I will do this, set q all, or even I can, let me do the same thing. There you are. So this is what I have entered into the DNS server. So you can see the primary name server, root servers there. You can see so there are unknown type, there's some issue there. I need to look at that. So you can see the name server. You can see all the whatever that is there. So the A records also, it's been given. So this is how you have configured it with the Unicode, because right. So I have to now build some tools, which I will do for the next couple of weeks. Basically, to now internationally also, they have a very few tools to actually see this. And like even a pinging to see whether server is up, there is a problem. So I'm coming up with some different tools, and I'll show you how those will be developed from scratch. So so I'm going to share those code with you. I mean, I did some work right now for the last couple of days, so that we will have internationally also some anyone to put like a Chinese or whatever, or the Telugu or whatever, that you can start actually checking on that. So this is some of the things that we will be doing, right? So we are going to have this webinar. There's a series until next I think April. So we will have a little by little, we'll build up these resources. And so universalacceptance.lk will be the place where that you can come and take the content. If you want the programming, then some of the libraries if you want. So you can come there and you can actually grab it and you can see. And especially the Banker Ceylon now, since you are going to have IDNs that you can actually build these ones, so that we can have customers even using Sinhala email addresses, or the bank also can use. And I'll be talking to the Lake House also. So Dinamina, Buddhasarana and all of them, and then Rupavahini and the several other the media institutions and the other government organizations to have Sinhala and Tamil domain names. Plus, if we can have international the email addresses with so we are going to come up with a platform like Gmail, where you can have Sinhala and Tamil, right? So that's the idea. So we have for the next couple of months. So I invite all of you to actually come on board with us, and so to have an interesting kind of like a sort of a journey. So we will have this some of these actually one in different languages, and especially that will become a center of attention, I think. So we can give some of these tools actually to other countries as well. Like now I realize that actually they don't realize that they don't have some of these tools. Like now even to do a trace route, they had to do the Unicode. So if you want to, so for us, actually, it's easier rather than having Unicode, you type the U label and then it just give the A label automatically. That you can do with Python. It comes automatically, and then it will do the Python has a this DNS libraries. It is automatically actually can do all of this NS lookup, and you can check on the ping command. There is a DNS, there is a ping for Python ping, there's a library, and so all of that actually supported by Python right now. So I'm going to come up with all those and I will share with you. Then there will be some other challenges like how we will support the email addresses. So that's going to be an interesting part. So I'm actually looking at several MTS right now. I'll give a different components and the different servers also that I will be talking about. Basically the postfix webmail server I'm looking at right now to see how I mean, I know that there are some actually support, some don't. So anyway, this is going to be very interesting. So we will have a hackathon somewhere in February. Then the International Universal Acceptance Day will be in February. So we will we'll actually mark that day with the rest of the world. And Sinhala has to do some because Indians are already doing it. We are the third country right now kicking off a universal acceptance in the world. There are 2 other countries have done, regions have done. So the Sinhala is actually being the 22nd, I think you saw that, is the 22nd largest script in the world. So with a 14.4 million people. So we will actually, is not a little country, the small country, but we are not little as well when it comes to numbers, right? So we'll do something so that other countries also will going to be, so that people will actually look at us and say, this is the way to go. So the next billion people will come through this, 1.5 billion. I think our estimate is about a 1.8 billion ICANN estimates, but a 1.8 billion people come on board. And then by 2 to 3 years down the road, we'll have about 90% people on the internet. So that's the whole plan. So so we can finish it today. In fact, if you can tell us the others also to join, I will be covering this coding part as well, and the networking side. So thank you very much for joining today. In fact, it's kind of, what do you think? I mean, do you think it's going to be interesting, or what do you think? Are there any questions from your side? Anything?
So we got gain a lot of knowledge about that the things like Unicode. I think we had good experience about that these things, and we will tell others to join with that coding, and also the network people to join with this and get the
yeah, the next time if you can bring some like for instance now, NS lookup and all that, so that will be important for your network, yes, guys. And I will show you the, now since you guys are, I think, coders, I will show you the coding part also. I mean, there are interesting side to it. I mean, there are lots and lots of really challenges, but we will go through this together. And so I will show you some of the things that I'm doing right now. And so these tools actually, like a NS lookup, not the dig is on Linux. So I will do the NS lookup and the dig also I may try. Then the other ones like trace routing, the ping commands, all of these, and I'm trying to right now give a tools on basically simple tools where that when we configure the domain name, so that you don't need to go and look for the Linux, Unicode, and you don't need to do that. Basically, we can do it directly from check from putting our Sinhala name. It will convert into and also now Google has come up with all these input tools also. Hela Kuru is there, all of that for the Sinhala. So when we start doing this actually, so that when we build these web tools, we are not going to restrict it to the Tamil or Sinhala, right? We'll open it up for anybody to come there and use it. so that it's like anybody, it's a universal tool, set of tools, so that people will, so that's the idea that I have. So people have not thought about some of these things. So they have to go and by they have to convert it to Unicode and do all of this, right? So I don't want to do that. I want a one step, just put the in Sinhala and in the Sinhala script, and it should actually go and find out, that's what I thought. Now, even the ping command, I think we need to have a ping command there. So we'll do all of that so that it will be used, it can be used by others as well. So that's the idea that I have. And a lot of content is also not there now. Whenever you want to configure DNS server or something like that, the content is very limited. So I will give the name servers, how to configure name servers, and how to configure, those ones also. I will make it available online with this universal acceptance.lk. So then you will be able to do all of that without difficult, without any issue. So that's the idea that I have. So can you take that message to everybody, anybody who wants to actually come on board, so that we'll have it in 2 weeks. The next one, I will again revisit the whole thing, the whole lecture that I did today, but like in 15 minutes, I'll summarize it. Then I'll go back again and I'll do some of these things quickly, and then